The Miracle League of Michigan is Michigan's first adaptive baseball field for children with disabilities. And when I say that, I mean any disability, cognitive, physical, blind, deaf, you name it. If you can't play in a typical league, you can play in the Miracle League. Now, that comes at a price, of course. How do you do that? How do you get a child in a wheelchair or walker safely around dirt, infield, and bases? You can't, and it's just not safe for them. So back in the year 2000, there were a group of fathers in Conyers, Georgia, that were doing the same thing I was doing and that you guys do, is coaching your kid through Little League Baseball. And I'll tell you how God works. This is quite interesting, because when he's playing, they have this girl in a wheelchair that comes to every Little League game and watches behind home plate. And you know how the dads and moms are. They talk after games. Some of the guys were Rotary Club members, and they said, this is not right, man. What prohibits this? How can we change this? Now, at the same time they were watching this girl come to their game at the Birmingham Little League, I'm coaching a team, and one of my players had a little brother. And when he was just under a year old, a babysitter was there. She was a teenager on the phone with her boyfriend, got in an argument, the old wireless phones, right? The ones with the antenna. The baby's bothering her, and she throws it at the baby, hits him in the chest, stops his heart it was almost an hour before people got there. And Briggs, the little boy, survived that. And he was coming out to my field to watch his brother. And I can remember playing with him after our Little League game, once we were done. And Briggs has got his helmet. He's a little guy. And, I'd pretend with him, get him out on the field. Briggs, you're up to bat. And I'd pretend I'm going to pitch, and we'd chase him down. So there was a synergy. There were different things happening. But these guys in Conyers, Georgia, constructed the first field made of a running track surface called Mondo.
So this is back in 2000, right?
2000.
Okay.
That was the very first field of its kind. Very first. And they did it with so they're architects, they're Rotary guys. They're up there in society, if you will. They know people who know people, if you know what I'm saying.
Right.
And it took a lot of money and guts to do that. And Brian Gumbel and HBO Real Sports, the show, featured that Miracle League. And I saw that. So here I am coaching my Little League team. I was, when I left radio, I had an advertising marketing company for 18 years. So I was just tired of all of that, looking for anything new, loving kids. And I get a hold of that video. And it just was like, yeah, I never thought, do kids with disabilities play? And that's a problem, because we don't. Most of us take that for granted. So anyway, I decided that this was something our community should have, and I thought that raising $1 million would be relatively easy to build that field. And I spoke with the city of Southfield, Rochester, and Troy, looking for one
So you
location.
didn't have a location in mind. Mm-hmm. You went and said, hey, I'm going to talk to these different cities and then try to figure it out which one would be most receptive to it and easy to work with, I would assume.
Yes, this was the most unbusinesslike approach to getting something off the ground ever. Highly not recommended for young entrepreneurs. No, all I say is this field was built on faith, man. If you were to see that video, yeah, if you have a heart, it will open. Some people don't feel as much, but I sure do. And so, yeah, I called the Miracle League people that had created that first field. I said, love that. Would love to bring it here. And they're like, well, heck, do it. We love it. Well, here's the logo. I flew the director in. And we went to different locations. Southfield came right out of the gate and said, you know what? We deserve this. We do a lot for the disabled community, so this would be great. And it's good for them, too, right? Because they take a little baseball field, a rickety field in shambles, and we put $1 million, in our case, $2 million now. I don't know if you've seen our restaurant, but it just keeps growing. And our first year, we had 40 players, and now in our 21st year, can't believe, we have 500 players, and we've added an additional field in Orion Township. So, and we've also become part of Easter Seals Mork. So we're now known as Easter Seals Mork Miracle League. And that organization helps tens of thousands of people around here. And we're glad to be part of that family. But yeah, I hope that answered some of your questions.
No, that was fantastic. So now that you've expanded to Orion Township, what's your goal or vision moving forward the next 4, 5, 6 years as you're trying to expand this? Are you trying to go into different areas? Are you trying to touch different types of kids or needs that are out there?
I'm trying to build more opportunities, because baseball is great, bowling's great, but it's not enough. A lot of these kids are secluded. Their moms are telling me when baseball is done, oh my God, what are we going to do? And when people call me to register and their registration is closed, when I've had parents cry on the phone to me, and they said, oh, please, you don't know how important this is to him. He doesn't have any friends. When somebody's saying that to you, a mother in tears, I mean, for me, it's like, wow, we should do whatever we can do for them. So adding more to our offerings in answer to your question. But let me give your listeners a little mental picture of what a game looks like. So
now you have two. Walk them through the two types of games that you have, because you have the competitive and not as competitive, the more participatory game.
The original league, which is the one that was started in Conyers, and we have our, the original as well, and have developed the competitive. But one starts at 4 years old and goes on up. And we learned after years of everyone hits, everyone gets on base, everyone goes around, that the non-competitive fun didn't work for some children that were more capable. So one of the moms came to me and said, our kid loves the Miracle League, but he doesn't want to play with 4 or 5-year-olds anymore. That's how the competitive league was born. And you guys, that's how I met you, through our competitive. Your group volunteered for our competitive coaches, and it was a really great thing for them. I mean, they respected what you did, what you taught them, and they used it in games to come. So
let's back up real quick. So we did one event where we volunteered in the competitive game, and then one in the non-competitive game. And we did 2 volunteer events. And then what we did was we were able to also look at some of the needs you had about like equipment, and we did a little drive to get some equipment.
A couple of those
donated to the program there. But what I thought was most interesting was with the biggest need. One of the biggest needs you had at the time was to train the coaches and have somebody come in and kind of walk them through, how to get them properly warmed up, how to get them stretched out, how to do some drills. And all we did was we took our group of coaches and did a lot of the stuff that we do with our travel program, and applied it to the Miracle League coaches and players, and just tried to get them to organize themselves, organize their thoughts. And first thing I remember talking to them is, I thank them all just for being coaches, because being a coach is a commitment of time and energy, and oftentimes it's overlooked, and you don't always get people don't realize all the work that goes in behind the scenes. And so I thank them, and I empower them to, you're going to make good decisions and bad decisions, and that's okay. But the key was to make it fun for all the players, while getting them organized and teach them a few things along the way.
Right. And I think you learned some things too, because you came out and it was a totally it's the same, right? It's competitive baseball with kids. And you came out, I think, I'm standing in the background and he's doing his thing and I'm like, wow, our coaches, I mean, he hasn't really seen some of our kids play. So it's all well intended, but can't always connect. Do you know what I'm saying? That's the hard part with what we do. So we try to contain it and have as much fun. And yes, it has become very competitive these days. We work towards a World Series. Unfortunately, our $1 million fields only have a fence of 115 feet. So when you've got a 300-pound big kid at the plate with guns, those balls, holy moly, they go. So yeah.
But what I thought was great was the coaches. It was a lot of the same things. Well, how do we handle this? And what, I got these parents that want this, and I just closed my eyes, and it was no different to deal with a lot of the parents that we deal with, and our travel program. So a lot of the same struggles that your coaches had, we have.
Right.
It's just a different set of circumstances that we tried to help them, guide them through. And I think the biggest thing, and Coach Walter and I have talked about this a long time. It doesn't matter if it's a Miracle League or Little League. There's not enough coaching of the coaches. I remember my first year in Little League, they said they were looking for coaches. I signed up. They chucked a clipboard at me and said, "Hey, good luck."
Right.
And I'm looking around and I'm like, well, I've played baseball, but I mean, there's no training. There's
my
no
deal with the Miracle League. Here's a logo. Good luck.
So that I thought it was good that you recognized that, and we came in and at least gave them a starting point, and then we gave them our information, and a few of them reached out and said, "Hey, do you have any practice plans?" And we shared some practice plans that at a high level they could implement with some of their players. So I think it was good, and that's a definite need that's out there in the market of just helping coaches, especially in baseball, train them and run organized and good practice.
Well, that's a business in and of itself. I mean, it's something the youth league should do, really. I don't know.
Absolutely. So I have a question. If I'm a parent and I'm looking to get involved, how do I do that? How do I get involved in the Miracle League?
We have a website, michiganmiracle.org, and or they can get to us through Easter Seals Mork and find the Miracle League of Michigan, or just Google Miracle League of Michigan. Again, we have our flagship field is in Southfield, and our newer field is Orion Township. So they're pretty well spaced out. What's your thought on all of this? You haven't been to a game?
I haven't, and it's very interesting, very intriguing to me how this all is put together. The aspect of the coaches, the players, and parents, and just the community itself coming together to put this on is something that is in desperate need for these kids. I think it's a great idea. Yeah.
So I call it a win-win-win. And they're pretty much your bullet points. The win is for the player first and foremost. These are kids that thought they wouldn't be able to play. Now they're showing up in their walker or wheelchair, coming wearing a Detroit Tigers Little League jersey. So they win. That's a no-brainer. What I didn't know when I was going around starting this, because I don't have a child with a disability and I didn't have any friends within the disabled community, so I didn't really get what it meant to a parent. It wasn't until one of the parent meetings that I was speaking at while I was building the field, and I'm up there with my Miracle League hat and I'm explaining to the parents all we're going to do and the field's going to look great. And I was at this large group of autistic parents and their kids. The kids are bouncing off the walls. And when I'm talking, I really picked up on the vibe of one of the wives leaning over to her husband, like, does he know what group he's talking to? And I picked up on that. I was like, oh, no, guys, this is for you. This is why it's for you. I mean, it's a safe place for you. Your kids come in, they're in this beautiful field with fences and bleachers. You got eyes on them all the time. But the third win, okay, so that's the win for the families, right? They get to watch their kids do, and they get to come out and coach. Because remember, these dads wouldn't have had that opportunity to coach. I mean, that was my dream before I ever had a kid. I want to coach my kid. Finally, it's the community. So during the course of a season, we play 7 days a week in Southfield. We have triple headers on Saturdays, Sundays, doubleheader Monday, and all the rest of the week with our competitive sprinkled in. But for our non-competitive portion, the kind that everyone's on, everybody's safe, it's underhand pitching, oversized plastic bat, we have over 400 people, but we need 1,200 volunteer slots filled per season. Now think about that, 1,200 volunteer slots. I mean, it could be one person that's volunteering 3 times, but regardless, we fill that. And this is the way that really, it's the most enlightening thing you can do. And it's great for kids. I love when I get the 10U teams out.
Yeah.
They're still young. Again, this little sassy personality. I remember taking my son to games when he wasn't hitting. He had an attitude. He wasn't talking to me. He wasn't having any fun. It was just, so I get these kids in front of me. And we do this whole buddy meeting before we start a game. So we show them how you're going to partner with this kid. Because they have to look over our kids. They have to make sure they're safe when they're on the field. That's the buddy's job. So I'm telling them what they need to know before they go on the field. And I look at these little leaguers and I go, guys, I know some of you are arguing with your parents or not talking or you're copping an attitude because you've been 0 for 16. But I want you to notice when you're on field today how lucky you are to be standing at the plate at your next game. I mean,
that was the biggest thing for me is we brought our kids out the couple times, and just you could just almost see the epiphany that they had in their eyes, and they lit up and they were looking at it and there was a realization there that the struggles that they have are a lot different than the struggles that these kids have on a day-to-day basis, and they were able to recognize that and form a bond with with some of the players. And I know we took our team to one of the competitive games, and there was one kid behind the plate who was a catcher, and he was just a riot. And he struck out, and he was so mad.
Michael Mojo.
And then he hit a rocket shot, and he was going nuts. And our players just loved him because of his personality. And they would mention him by name for weeks at a time at our practices. Hey, remember when he did that? And so it was a good experience for them, but it was very eye opening for them to see kids that are facing challenges other than what they have,
and hopefully take away the message that although we may look or act a little bit different, we all have a lot of the same basic needs. They find this kid that's in a wheelchair. You play video games? Really? What do you play? And then it's boom. They don't notice the disability. And the younger you can get kids, in my opinion, with a disability, like especially in a wheelchair, more physical disability, but they're cognitively, fine, is to get them into these positive experiences of experiencing success so they don't buy into you can't do anything. I do these disability awareness speeches. I took Mason, this guy, with me. He's my speaker this round, and he's in a wheelchair. And, it's really interesting to listen to the students ask him questions. Do people look at you different? Yeah. Sometimes they do. Are they mean to you? Yeah, sometimes they do, or they are. And so there's so many different takeaways. I don't care if you're a butcher or a baker or whatever else you want to throw all in there, but you cannot come out to our team and be blown away. And to that point, we do partner with the Detroit Tigers every year. They do the Fantasy Camp for Kids, which is a program was begun by Jeremy Flug in Colorado. Jeremy's been a great sponsor to us, great baseball guy. So he does these in about 10 different cities, gives all this money to each team, and the Tigers come out every year. So the Tigers come out, and we've been interviewed on Fox numerous times, and when you hear Miguel or all these guys, they always say the same thing. They ask the big league player, what'd you think? And they go, I don't know if it's better for me or better for them. Because you take a look at a ball player, just think of the dedication you guys have in baseball. You know that people that have done this their entire life, and then, like radio for me, the business cuts in. Right now you're a commodity, and it just doesn't work for some people. But the Tigers, it was a nice reprieve for them to get away from the business, especially in the years when Alan Trammell was here. They were like, dying. Let me go anywhere. Oh, my God.
This episode of Two Average Daves is brought to you by our sponsor, Full Count Glove Relacing. Get your baseball glove back in the game. Don't take your glove to a shoe repair business or expect a nice kid at the sporting goods store to know how to relace it. Have a baseball guy fix your baseball glove. Reach out to Brian Spence at 248-217-3979. And for as little as $20, he'll get your glove back in the game. Visit the Full Count website at full-count-glove-relacing.com.
You've been at this now since 2000. And
2004.
What keeps you going? What keeps you driving forward and doing this?
I want to do more. I feel like this is great, but there's not more that I can do. I also want to tell people that when we have a game, it's not like a Little League game where, crickets in the outfield and kids blowing dandelions. We've got a full announcer booth, the surround sound, play-by-play, bumper music. It's full on a major league event. So, I don't know. What'd you say? I forgot your question.
What keeps you doing this? What keeps you driving? What keeps you getting up and doing this? And you're highly passionate about it.
Yeah.
And that comes across. It's very obvious. But what keeps you going?
I don't know. I just think, the only thing we can really do in life is to give back and help others. I don't know anything that makes anyone feel better than doing something good, and there are people that think that because they've done so much bad, they need to do something good, but it's either in your heart or not. And so why do I keep doing it? There's just, as long as every day I go out there and I see those kids and the families, and what it means to them. And unfortunately, every year, sometimes two in a year, we lose that many players. We just lost another player a couple of months ago. So I've seen over 23 kids die in our 20 years. That's kind of hard. So that's another reason why you want to go back, because it means something to these families. Now, having said that, there's a lot of other passion projects that I'd love to be involved in, But so I guess if we're tight on time, I want to ask you the final question, because what amazes me about volunteers is why they get involved. It's not like you're listening to this podcast, you've heard me, and now you're coming out, or you met me, or I'm calling you out to come out, and you come out. I'm talking about the people that I run into almost every day at the field from all walks of life, nursing students, doctors, people who are serving some DUI time, people that need kids that need community service credits. But for the most part, it's just the people that come out, and I'm like, wow, you decided to get up today and go do this. Not everyone does that. Not everyone does that. And that's something we should all do.
Well, we did it for our baseball organization because one of the tenets of it was I founded this organization and I wanted to get a lot of my personal messaging across to the players. And I don't advertise it, but pretty much everything that I share with the players and the rules that I have are all biblical principles. Mm-hmm. I just don't label them as such. Yeah. And one of the things is that every player knows, and every player family knows that they are to give back and expect nothing in return. And so we do a lot of this stuff, but wanted to get that personal piece of me into this baseball organization. So that's one of the reasons why when I decided I was going to start my own team, other organizations said, hey, come join our organization. I said, no, you won't let me do what I want to do. Like, well, what do you want to do? I said, well, first of all, I want to put a Bible verse on my left sleeve. They're like, okay, well, we can allow that. Okay, well, I want to go and do a bunch of volunteer events. We can't do that. We don't have insurance that covers that. I go, exactly. So that's why I wanted to kind of do my own thing, and I just wanted to have a single team. And then, we're a blessed organization, and we've grown now to 11 teams because we are. I do believe we're blessed, but it was really for me, it was leading by example, and then I got coaches, and the coaches that actually kind of organized with your group was a gentleman by the name of Michael Solomon, and he's the one that spearheaded it. And then we've just kept on continuing that that tradition, and we've done different things now with you, and so you're definitely always on our heart and our mind.
I hear from you a couple of times a year with glove offerings, and we definitely appreciate that.
Yeah. So for me, it's it's a way for me to give back, and for us as an organization, it's baseball, so it just naturally makes sense from that aspect.
I mean, that's why every team out there, if you're a coach and you have a team somewhere, and this podcast is heard all over the country, so wherever you're at, coach, look and find where Miracle Leagues are. We were the second state, and they're all over the country now. So coaches, I encourage you to do what David did. I mean, just find us. I mean, that's very admirable. Were you like that when you were a kid? That you did your parents force you to volunteer, or were you the type of kid that would pick a kid's glasses up when somebody knocked them down? Or
I'd like to think I was that way, but it's probably not accurate. No. It's distilled from my parents.
He's the troublemaker. The other day,
I am.
No, it's distilled for me. It was distilled down from my parents. Again, leading by example. We, I saw a lot of the selflessness of my parents, especially my father, about giving back to others, helping others. And even today, one of the things that he does is he helps people that are elderly and not able to maybe do different things around the house. And he laughs. He'll call me up all the time and say, hey, they want to charge this lady $500 to do this task. It took me 15 minutes and I charged her $10. And so that heart, right? That heart and that spirit, that's where, I get a lot of that. And
but not everybody does that. That's my point. It's so ludicrous.
But people ask me all the time, like, well, how do you do it? I said, you know what? You start anywhere. You could start at the simplest thing and just go on next door and shovel. Like right now in Michigan here, we got snow on the ground. Going and shoveling your neighbor's snow.
Yeah.
Just a simple thing like that, and then go from there. Get involved. I read this book. It was called The Dream Center by a guy out in California. I think his name is Matthew Barnett was the one, and he was a pastor, and he wanted to give back. And one of the things that he talked about was his first sermon that he gave. He got hate mail. Can you imagine that? Getting hate mail? Sending hate mail into a pastor, a preacher.
I didn't hear a sermon, but
and he's like, I just was finding my way, and it wasn't anything offensive, but he wasn't a very good speaker.
Yeah.
But he had a heart, and he wanted to give back to people.
Yeah.
And then his ministry got going, and then he ended up taking over an old hospital and made it into they call it the Dream Center. And in that book I was reading, he said, you get started, just get involved. Okay, the first place you get involved maybe doesn't work out. Just keep getting involved, and you'll find different spots, and you'll find something that you can give back, and find a place where your services are welcomed and appreciated.
It's so simple. I've been playing with this thing for the past couple of weeks, and it started quite on accident. I was checking out at a store, and there was a pretty woman in front of me, and she had a really nice coat on, and I complimented her on her coat, and she was like, oh my God. I mean, and then there was like the next day, I'm an older lady, and I'm complimenting her on her boots or something, just by telling somebody coming out of anywhere, that coat, that color is perfect on you. God, you look really good. There's a power in that. when you say if it's genuine. And I feel the same about this giving stuff that we've talked about and the volunteering. There are those that volunteer and those that donate, for that matter, for a certain reason. Not always the reason that you would think, but as a nonprofit, you'll take it any way you can get it. But they're giving and they go, well, what do I get for that? I get my name on the back of the jersey? Do I get a banner in the... Come on, dude. You're giving us $500. This is your marketing platform for your company?
Well, they want the whole first base dedicated to them.
Yeah.
So.
And we'll put a statue. I mean, yeah, for $500. So there's that. And then there's the guy that sends me a check for $10,000 from Florida that I've never met, never heard from, just happened to own a tool and die shop somewhere in Florida, having a good year, looking on the internet. Who can I give money to? Sends it. Doesn't say anything, just sends it.
Well, that's one of the things I struggle with is that I want to, I want to do these nice things, but I also don't want the praise for them. And then people in our organization are like, no, we got to blast this out and show all the positive things that we're doing. And I always struggle with that because I don't want to put a spotlight on what we're doing and taking some credit because that's not really why we're doing it. But that's one of the struggles I have is because if by doing that, you could encourage one person to do something positive and either donate their time. And so that's kind of one of the things that people in our organization have kind of pushed me on. No, we gotta promote some of the positive things that we're doing.
What are you struggling with there?
I don't want, because I feel like if you should do something, you do it out of the kindness of your heart,
right,
and it's not for the glory.
Right.
It's not for
let me tell you
the publicity or anything like that.
Let me tell you my read on that. First of all, I love that. I own that 100%. When I started, that was my mantra. I felt so different when I started this league because I had a company that I still own for 18 years. I was doing this as a side thing to help kids. But then it got bigger and bigger. And I mean, it's like, oh my God, I got to raise money for this thing. So I worked the first 10 years of this league. I worked the first 10 years for free. Never said anything to anyone. Struggled with what you're struggling with, to the point where I'm calling in people like Rabbi Shemtov and people in this category of nonprofit. How do you justify paying yourself? I mean, I was working 12-hour days. It was consuming all of my time. But I never felt worthy of that. And I never told anyone that. And it helped me raise money because everyone knew that. So the people giving money goes, well, it's not going to him. So cool.
But I think sometimes you do have to promote some of the positive things you're doing to help inspire other people to get involved.
Exactly.
If they don't know about the good things you're doing, they don't know how to get involved.
But here's the kicker on all of that. When I merged with Easter Seals Mork, then it became different. Remember, I'd raised $1 million plus to build the field. The land contract was in my name, my nonprofit name. Now I'm merging with these guys, and part of that deal is to take on a directorship. So now, after 10 years of working for free, I am taking a job. All right, so some of the people that I'd known for 10 years, once I told them that, I was making money, they were like, well, duh. I mean, I thought of course. You weren't before? Like, people are blown away so when you don't say that sometimes, when you hold back because it's the right thing to do, it's still the right thing to do. But they do kind of expect different because they kind of wouldn't do that, perhaps.
We've talked about that just as coaches quite a bit. We even here at CST, we've helping kids with recruiting and getting into college and things like that. And we've done that for a few years now. And it wasn't until we really got our fall ball going that we started to monetize it a little bit. But before that, it was just out of a need to help these kids that didn't know how the process worked, help parents because they didn't know how the process worked, and give them the insight and the direction to go. But we've been doing that for years, and it wasn't until recently that we've started to monetize it and get paid for it or anything like that. But we've been teaching coaches and helping kids and that for years here at CST.
So now I'm going to lighten up a little bit. Give me some there's always funny stories about parents and coaches. So I need some good stories.
Oh my gosh. You know, most of my stories that I think of are really more around moving than funny. You know, there's so many funny moments. Like when the big boy with Down syndrome came up from behind me, so excited to see me, pick me off the ground and crack my ribs. That was fun. You know, so there's that. But yeah, it's the impactful stories. Sorry to bring you guys down, but you know, you here I am the first year. I'm like all your listeners that have never been to a Miracle League game. You know this thing is going on. It's happening. I don't know people with disabilities, but I've got these two teams playing. One of the girls that's playing on my team, Courtney, had been in a coma for over a year. Like not coming out of this coma, over a year. It made the Detroit Free Press front page. The girl wakes up from coma. She ends up playing in our league in that opening season. And the first time, she was the first hitter. And when she hit the ball, she ran around the bases, and we had an umpire. This is like we're brand new. We in one of those striped umpire shirts. We're like, how do we identify umpire in baseball? Blue is boring, you know. So he's got this striped shirt. Some great lug that came out with the goodness of his heart to help his umpire. And he's playing it up for the crowd. And here comes Courtney, her first time home, and the umpire does his safe. And when he does that, Courtney, her reaction is to jump up, wrap her arms around him, just hug him and kiss him. You know, that. And then when she passed away that same season, that was the minute for me that I realized the Miracle League was so much more than baseball. Because I was asked to speak at the girl's funeral, and we only had 4 coaches, and they all wore uniforms, and so it's packed. You know, kids' funerals, if you've ever been to one, I hope you haven't, but they're packed. And so I get through the crowd, and I'm up, and I start to talk about Courtney, and as I looked over the heads of all the people, I saw in the back of the room, in uniform, our 4 Miracle League coaches, you know, and that's the moment I realized, wow, it looks like baseball, but it's really self-esteem and confidence. It's all about community. It's about bringing people together. It's about seeing the good, not seeing the bad. It's about just doing good, doing the right thing, and nothing will make you feel better.
So what are your biggest needs as an organization? Obviously, donations, always trying to raise funds, but is there anything you need? Volunteers, you already touched on that. You need
Volunteers,
people to
100%.
Volunteer to help out. So talk about some of the things that people could do to volunteer and what they would be donating their time to do.
You know, if there was somebody that was actually a coach that wanted to try to coach, that I don't know if they're off season or not, but mostly our parents do that. But there are some parents that are only doing that because they have to do it. Somebody's got to do it. But it's fun, man. So, but volunteers, yeah, we need them. They sign up online, and they can pick the day and time and just show up. It's great.
And what types of things are they doing during that time that they're volunteering?
They're going to be a buddy, right? So we're going to partner you with an appropriate ability child, right? So which is to say, if I have a 10-year-old baseball player, I'm not going to put him with a fragile child in a walker, right? I'm going to have an adult volunteer do that. I'll put him with a kid his same age that, you know, has a different situation. But this is for the volunteers. There's nothing better than being a buddy. You know, it takes 1 hour per game, or if you're on a Saturday or Sunday, it's a 2-hour commitment. You're out in the sun. We've got you covered with a restaurant, you know, drinks, ballpark franks. Everything is there. We have so many that return, and now companies are becoming involved. So what better place to bring out your group on a Thursday or Friday night? That's the company. They love those nights because they come after work, they can eat, and it's a great team experience. Who can't benefit from not helping someone less than? And one final success tip is it's about knowing, it's not about believing. okay? Because people think they can will themselves to success. What made me think when I heard about this and I saw this video and I decided to build this field, I literally went that night to my son's basketball game at Derby Junior High and middle school, and I told my coach friends that were there, hey, I'm building this field. He's like, what's this? And, oh, okay. I mean, what? And why was I able to build it and raise the money in 6 months? I mean, it blows me away that this, honest to God, if you have faith, this was not about me. You can compliment me all you want, but I was just the guy doing the work. And so what I'm saying is that these people online that people tell you to wish for a millionaire, wish that you're going to be a success, know that it's going to happen. Knowing is something more powerful than believing it's going to happen or hoping it's going to happen. If you know, and that's the big caveat, because some people say, I know it's going to happen, but do you? Your heart, do you? And I proclaimed that what happened to me is I had a knowing that was so great that it was just, there was nothing else in that frame of work. And spirit, power, universe, miracles. That could be 3 more podcasts, but that money came in. We built a field in 6 months. The average today around the country after the league's been up for over 21 years is 5 to 10 years. 6 months.
That's amazing.
We're now attached to Easter Seals Mork, which is a very large nonprofit. We've almost got 1,000 employees right now. And so when I joined them, they wanted this because it really served their constituents, the people, with disabilities. And they do all such amazing work over there with therapists and doctors and helping people. But they didn't have something fun. And people connect to fun. If you look at an Easter Seals Mork flyer, and you've got one of our Miracle League kids on it, people just are drawn to it. I got a picture on our Facebook page of a girl. She was at one of our fantasy camps, the Tiger Fantasy Camps, with no arms, hitting at home plate and hitting well with the bat under her chin.
That's awesome.
So, yeah, it was just knowing is key. You need to really believe in what you're doing and know that it's a good project. And this is beyond me. Your project and what you guys do is good too, man. I appreciate that. There's not many other coaches that are trying to help out youth the way you guys are. With the messaging, not just the training. The training is top notch, but it's the connection. That's tough.
Yeah, and because, it's also about setting realistic expectations because, you take a 12-year-old team and, probably half the parents think that their kids go in the major leagues, but the reality is that, those positions at the top level are just so far few between. So what is it really? Why are you playing youth sports and what's the purpose? And so trying to basically kind of reframe why you're doing this. It's about the teamwork, the camaraderie, working hard, learning how to win, learning how to lose, learning how to fail, learning how to break through the next level, all those different things versus, I want my kid to play because he's going to make the major leagues,
Right, but it's more than managing their expectations. It's managing the parents' expectations.
Yeah. That's the biggest part.
What you said was echoed by Jim Northrup. He played on the 1968 World Series Tigers. I was friends of him for 16 years, and we shared office space. So I was with him at lunch every day. And I was also doing these camps with and for the Detroit Tigers, where we used former Tigers to do baseball camps, like this. And he'd say, it makes me so damn mad to see these parents. I can't even sit and watch my kid's game. I have to stay in the car because the parents are so off the chain. He said exactly what you said. They think their kid's going to be the next so-and-so. He says, how many major leaguers have come out of Michigan in the last, but the next one's going to be yours. And you're going to put the pressure on them. So I'm down with, working with the players as much as they want to play. I just hate that some of the players are playing under some form of duress, do you think?
Oh yeah.
Oh, definitely.
Like, and you see that as a good coach, you know how to lay off that. I'm guessing. I mean, you have to.
Yeah, we've jokingly called ourselves the Dream Crushers because we've tried to help the parents and players set realistic expectations, and try to understand where they're at and where they're going, with this, with youth baseball and youth sports in general, because, everybody's going to be the next all-star. But they lose sight of the facts of why they're playing it. Are they playing it for fun? Are they playing it for the camaraderie? Are they playing it to, be with their buddies? There's still something to that gets lost along the way. You see too many kids just specializing, just trying to be the next all-star at that sport, but they forget along the way why they fell in love with the sport to begin with.
Exactly. I had this very wealthy father when I was coaching the Birmingham Little League, and he was into high finance. He was young mover and shaker in his 40s, I'm guessing, early 40s, good looking, played college ball, and his son was my pitcher. His son, he just smoked it. He was so fast that kids were just scared of him. This is where do you go after T-ball, association, then what's the next?
Pony League or
No.
Little League?
I guess junior. So it was association. Anyway, his dad, you're trying to coach your people. And the way I'd coach them is I'd see him get so rattled when he wasn't, because normally he's on fire. When you got a guy like he's just crushing it and then he's off, then he's out of control a lot of times. They're like in Never Never Land. Oh my gosh, the wheels are falling off. That's when, as a coach, I'd go out there and just speak gibberish to him. I'd see something stupid about something on Nickelodeon or whatever. I'd walk out and I just wouldn't have anything to do with what the baseball was, and I'd tap him on and walk back. Chill out. But his dad kept putting the pressure, and you can't change that. That's overstepping bounds. That's the hardest part. Because some of the dads, I bet you have experienced, they don't like you. They don't like the way you play their kid. You're sitting him, he's better than you think he is.
Oh yeah. We've listened to that in fall ball quite a bit.
More than you know.
Hey, support these guys if you're out there and you like podcasts. I know a lot of people, they live on podcasts now. So, support them. They're, I don't know how long you've been doing this, but I did check you guys out on Spotify, and that's cool.
See if we're reputable.
How sweet is that, though? That you can be on Spotify, that anyone in the country can access your content.
Mm-hmm.
We're having a blast with this, and we, first of all, number one, thanks for coming on, but more importantly, thanks for what you're doing. Obviously, we have a kindred spirit as far as trying to give back. So I really appreciate everything you're doing for the kids. Keep up the good work, and we obviously we're going to try to do whatever we can to help you out moving forward, and just really appreciate all the work you're doing.
You've been a great partner. I appreciate you guys. Catch you guys later.
This episode of Two Average Daves is brought to you by our sponsor, FullCountGloveRelacing.com. Get your glove back in the game. Don't take your glove to a nice kid at a sporting goods store who doesn't know a thing about glove relacing. Have a baseball guy fix your baseball glove. Reach out to Brian Spence, and it's for as little as $20, he will get your glove back in the game. It's full-count-glove-relacing.com.